This book was not what I expected, nor is it what I really wanted or was hoping to get when I picked it up. I found this used, and I grabbed it because I had heard good things about it. And what I was really hoping for was a comfy, cozy winter read. It seemed like it would be perfect for that. It's not too long, it's like 312 pages. It's set in like medieval Russian wilderness based on fairy tales and Russian folklore, and it takes place mostly in the winter. So it seemed like I was getting a cozy winter fairy tale-esque book. But it was kind of creepy. It did start off with that cozy feel. So I was like, aha, I got it. And this might still count as a cozy book if you don't mind a little bit of dark creepiness, or if you're a fan of the darker side of the old fairy tales. Like modern fairy tales are often super happy, Disney-esque. This is not. But if you're a fan of where a lot of those tales started from, their darker roots, and you know that's what you're getting when you go into this, so your expectations are more correct, which mine were not, you might still like it. I also felt like the blurb on the back was a little misleading. After reading it, I felt like this pulled out little parts that weren't the important parts and made it sound like it was going to be something not quite what it was. So this is based on Russian fairy tales and folklore, and it has those fairy creatures as a main element of the story. The main character is Vasilisa Petrovna. I left out almost every other name because I'm not sure I would say any of the Russian names correctly, and I'm not sure I'm saying hers right. Her nickname is Vasya, which I still might be saying wrong. And Vasya is the granddaughter of a witch woman who had come out of the woods as a young woman, and the grand prince was intrigued with her and married her, and her daughter went to marry a noble that lives out in the wilderness, and their daughter is Vasya, the main character. But it doesn't start with her, it starts with her mom. In my opinion, the story starts way too early. Though Vasya is the main character, she becomes more so in the second and third parts of the book rather than in the first part. But because it starts so early, we get to see like the village she lives in, what her family dynamic looks like, and we see her as a young child and some of the things that make her different. Part of the difference is being the heritage she gets from that witch woman grandmother. Vasya's mother dies, well, almost at the very beginning, and the father needs a wife. What he really needs is a mother for Vasya, and he would have liked to go to Moscow and pick his own, but he doesn't get a lot of choice in the wife that he gets, and that wife that he brings back, who is now the stepmother in a dark fairy tale, because of how marrying works among noble families, there's a little intermarriage going on, and so now there are two characters that have blood in them that can see the fae, fairy, spirit creatures that live in the world. In their homes, in the forest. These are like guardians, supposedly good little creatures that help take care of things. They'll work on your sewing. They might help keep bad spirits out of your house. Some of these spirit creatures, fairy, whatever, can be dangerous to humans, and so you have to beware. Those are more of like the wild ones out in the forest. The ones in your home are not ones you have to worry about. And the culture of the people at the time is that they leave little gifts for these fairy creatures to keep them happy. Little sacrifices to them, bread, just food and drink for them. But when the stepmother comes in and then a new priest comes in, they want to change things more in the mold of the new state religion, I guess, which is Christianity, although it feels more like Catholicism, but back then I'm not sure there was too much distinction between it. So they're viewing all these little forest spirits and home spirits as devils and demons, and they are bad and we should be afraid. And if we can fear these creatures and God can forgive us of our sins, he might save us from all these little devils that are inhabiting our village and homes. So there's a lot of tension between the old ways of doing things and giving to the spirits, and Christianity now, which is dubbing them as devils. It feels a little bit like good against evil, but both sides here think that they are good and the other side is evil. So on top of that tension, there is Frost. We, modern day, might call him Jack Frost. He's like the Winter King. And he's not necessarily a good guy. You have to beware of him. But Frost has a brother who is definitely the bad guy. He is represented by the bear. And a long time ago, Frost had contained the bear. The bear is bound and can't go around causing all kinds of trouble and mischief, which he would love to do. The bear has never been happy about this. He would love to get free. If he can get a woman like Vassia, or maybe if he can have the slow wearing away of the guardian spirits, maybe by a supposed man of God coming in and telling people that they should not be sacrificing to these spirits, then that might be a way he can weaken his prison enough to escape and cause mayhem. Then we have Vassia, because she has the power to see the spirits, also has the power to help Frost, but she has been shielded from knowing that because her family is afraid of Frost, all the stories that have been told about him all this time. So she, in her ignorance, does what she can to help in the meantime. So even though I thought it was kind of creepy, and I do not plan on finishing the trilogy, there are things that I thought were good about it. One of those things being that early Russian life feel. I feel like Kathrine Arden really knows her stuff, and I appreciate when an author who is knowledgeable in an area can make the part of their story that they're knowledgeable about really come to life. I felt like things were really realistic, so like the Russian sounding names. There's a little note in the back on how she changed some names and some wording to make it more comprehensible to modern readers, which is why I say Russian sounding instead of Russian. So names, the creatures, the clothing, the government, the way the church has influenced the government during this time period. I think she did a good job of depicting how harsh the winters are there, how hard it is, just what a struggle it is to survive because of nature and because of the part of the world they live in. Reading this feels like you need a hot drink and a blanket to enjoy reading it. I thought she did a really good job of showing the dangers of preying on people's fears and the damage that that can cause. And the thing I think I loved the most was the sibling relationships. There were some things that sometimes got tense between the parents and the children, or when it's time for one of them to leave home or get married or whatever else is going on in the world or in their village or in their home. The siblings always show love and care for each other, and it's obvious that they are really attached to each other, regardless of anything else. I really loved that part of it. Something I was not a fan of at all was the strong tones of patriarchy and sexism, which did not feel like the author, Kathrine Arden, was promoting that. Nor was it that annoying thing where it feels like someone's trying to be historically accurate and so they feel like they have to make it that way. It felt like she was just being accurate to the time period, which makes me more upset because I know that it probably was really that way. The women and the girls have no rights. Their place is at home. It is the lot of women to just get married off as a teen girl to an adult man and have children and basically be in the kitchen all day. That kind of thing is just super annoying to read about as a modern woman. It felt like the men, not all the men, a couple of the characters, men wanted power over Vassia. It's not like they desired her for who she was as a person. They just wanted to control her. And then things about her that would have been praised if she was a boy, and it was even said in here, if she had been a son, these would have been strengths to be praised. But unfortunately, she's a girl, so it's all inappropriate. Like courage and spending any time at all with a horse or being good at riding horses. Can't have that, can we? So I did not like the creepiness, kind of the dark, like creatures hiding in the shadows, a bad spirit creature controlling someone to then make other people feel afraid. Just not a fan of that kind of thing. Despite the creepiness, I did find it hard to put down. I wanted to keep reading and I stayed up too late a couple of nights finishing it. So I will say it was good, but I don't want to continue and I don't feel like I want to read the next 2 books in the series, and I'm fine with that. I do love this cover illustration. I love the colors, that dark blue winter sky, and then the warmth of the fire, which they need to survive. It just feels wintry and cozy. Cover design is by David G. Stevenson, and the cover illustration is Robert Hunt. I will link the author and the illustrator's websites in the description. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys a lot. My Patreon and Instagram will also be linked in the description. And if this one doesn't sound comfy and cozy to you, I hope you find one that is, and that you enjoy whatever you're reading. Happy reading. Bye.